I've heard you talk about the body like a couple times now, and then also on a few different ones. Like that seems to be a key piece for you, like creating space in the body. So, what are some of the the practices, or what are some of the ways that you do that just on a day-to-day basis?
That's a fantastic question. And it's something that I've been cultivating over time. And I actually feel like drawing kind of like a sequence of how I got to where I'm at and then where kind of how I play today, because I feel like that'll make more understanding. So I started, like I mentioned, when I was young, I was really curious about the body in general because I noticed I started feeling things that I didn't know how to describe. Like I could tell there was a sensation, but maybe the only word I knew at the time was pain, but I could tell it wasn't pain because it was more of a throbbing, or it was more like a pressure, or was it more like a heat, or was it more like an electricity, right? So me learning how to discern those qualities for myself started this journey for me of how do I actually start to translate everything I'm sensing in my body, and then within that, I go further. It's like, oh, now there's mental processes and how I'm even experiencing and trying to interface with this thing that I'm feeling. And is that getting in the way of how I'm processing the pain? And is it even pain? And is it just like a fixed idea of how I even process? I have a sensation, it's loud, it must be pain. And learning to let all of that go. So, all of this process, like, yeah, I love working with my body. I want to do more and I want to experience more because it feels good because I'm learning about myself. And then when I was about in my 20s, I started going to the gym a lot and I started wanting to work out and I wanted to get buff. And I had my own sequence of repetitions where I'd like my sets, where I'd have my days where I'd work on my back and chest and biceps and legs and all that. Like I had my whole sequence going. And I managed that for about 5 months. And I grew a lot and I developed and I learned a lot of certain systems and discipline and courage and how to create this capacity within either my diet or within myself to make a solution happen for myself, right? Like I saw an outcome and I wanted to achieve it. And I learned kind of this step by step process that helped me a ton while I was learning about my body. But then I got to a point where I took a yoga class, right? Well, like a friend of the family asked me, it's like, hey, do you want to take a beginner's yoga class with me? I was like, cool. All right, let's do it. So I took the class and it was a strenuous class, right? It was a power vinyasa and I ended up feeling like my body was tired, but I didn't feel drained. I felt light and energized. Like I could actually still keep going, but like I sweated a lot, and my muscles were sore the day after, but I did not feel drained. And to me, that was a huge click in my brain where I was like, okay, there's another way I can work with my body and use all these signals that it's trying to send and interface with them and learn to translate them so I can create a better outcome for myself and I can keep momentum because my body actually feels more alive after doing all of this work. So, what was the key difference, right? So then I went back into studying and what did it mean to go to the gym and lift all these weights. And I started recognizing that whenever I was actually lifting all these weights, then there's nothing wrong with the process. It's to me, all this is how you interact with it and what your actual outcome is and how you're learning to love and recognize all of these feelings in your body. So when I started to lift all these weights, I started to notice that as I was like, for example, the bicep curl, as I was lifting up the curl, I noticed that in my brain, I created this image of what I wanted my bicep to look like and what it meant that if I do these numbers of curls, this is what my bicep's going to feel like. And this is what and then I'm going to eat protein and it's going to turn into this and it's going to look like this. And I'm going to end up in a certain set of months, have this quality of outcome, and I'm going to be happy at this point. Right. It was very much this, like, I almost want to use the word strict regiment. Right. And again, nothing wrong with it. The thing that I was working on healing within myself was the idea that I needed this specific process in order to have this outcome because this outcome was something that I feel like I needed in order for my life to be a success or whatever. And the yoga, the quality of the lightness helped me recognize that I can have a piece of work or a procedure that I'm working with myself on with my body, specifically my muscles, but it doesn't have to have the extra steps added value to create the outcome I wanted. Because I already felt happy after doing my first yoga class, right? Because I learned how to breathe and how to actually bring a sense of stillness and calmness and not try to put myself in my own way, if that makes sense. I had to learn how to take myself out of the equation, my brain, like all of the feelings I had or my past ideas or my traumas or I like concepts of what I thought me feeling successful or looking good looked like, how to like set those aside. And at the time I only knew how to set them at the door, right? And then I learned how to heal them so I could just learn to breathe and listen to what my muscles and my body were actually asking for. So my at that time, my muscles and body were actually asking for it's like, hey, instead of doing just a ton of push-ups or like doing like a right and down dog and up dog, actually take it real slow. Even if the teacher's saying it's like, hey, go fast or like, breathe. It's like, wait, no, but my body, my chest are actually asking like, go slow. So I can learn how to breathe and slow down. And the second I started doing that, my chest started to feel like warmer. Like it started to feel like there was so much more life moving through. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but then afterwards, I felt like I didn't need to like massage my body or anything like that, or like kind of like take a rest or massage oils into it. I just felt like my muscles were happy. Wow, what does that even mean? So that like expanded into this whole process of understanding that the quality of time you spend in an action or a process means and has so much greater value than just the allotted amount of time. And sometimes that allotted amount of time you put into that thing lets you see the lesson of how you can refine and go into mastery of the quality of being able to spend less time and using your valuable time in a much deeper way. So then it developed into using the tools like the PNR and the source seeds and having all of these void space technology questions, or even right before void space technologies actually, of okay, I want to work on my chest, for example, or I want to do like work on my biceps because I feel like they're straining, or I can feel like I can actually strengthen them more. So I feel like I'm more stable in my body in general. And it turned into wow, this morning when I wake up I can actually just do like 3 push-ups is all, and that gives my like that moves enough blood through here where I can recognize actually what I was feeling was a level of like density, or like maybe I slept on it wrong and now I just actually needed to make room and massage it, right? So to me, it's now the practice I have every morning when I wake up is more about communication and acknowledgement of where I'm at and what my body's actually asking for. And it could be that day it's go do more, go do some jumping jacks, or go do whatever. And some days it could be it's like, oh yeah, actually just get some cooling line, just like rub it here on my shoulder because it feels like I just need to remember to love this area some more. And the practices are much more about combining love, acceptance, no judgment, and understanding that there's so much more quality to blossom. And how can I allow that to exist, right? Making that room for all of this to exist to me is at this point like more valuable than trying to execute a very detailed or specific outcome with my body.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I mean, it is usually now you would say like, hey, like here's your gym split, go 4 days a week, or like I do Pilates 5 times a week, at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. or whatever. But you're saying, or what I'm taking from it is more like all that is okay and that might be the right thing at that time, but also take the extra moment to just kind of slow down and tune in and ask your body, like, do I really need to go to the gym again, or am I just going because I said I was going to go 5 times, or like in that moment what is kind of the best for me. And if that happens to be whatever exercises those are, whatever practices those are, then that's great. But more just taking that extra time to make sure it's not something else that's pushing that direction. It's
Mm.
your true authentic self and like what you actually want out of the process.
Exactly, right? Because even all those regiments, right? All those capacities and procedures and processes, like going to the gym 4 times a week and having your own set procedure, absolutely, right? That helps you unlock and recognize and achieve your goals and create all of these little steps within yourself to develop resolve and determination and courage. Absolutely. And you get to work on your body and you get to learn all of these things. And the added value is that conscious awareness and presence of recognizing that as I'm growing, my own practice and my own regimen can keep developing and it can keep growing, and they could be super subtle or they could be massive shifts. It doesn't matter. But as an individual, as the human body loves to develop and grow, let yourself and your own process of how you interface with and interact with it develop and grow too, right? It might mean that in those like going to the gym 4 days a week or in Pilates or whatever, or yoga or whatever it means, that the biggest shift you can do for yourself, and it could be super simple as I'm going to take 3 breaths before I walk into class and I gotta do my thing. And that is the only conscious shift you need. And it changes everything. And you keep enjoying all that process and those 4 days a week to a greater degree and a greater level. Absolutely. All of these ideas of how you connect with your body, love them and let them exist. They're so, so valuable. And then as an individual in your core, let that keep updating on a regular basis.